Hi guys, how you doing? It's Elstination here. So yeah, we're going to carry on with doing a 30k or starting a 30k Horus Heresy army, and I wanted to have a chat with you a little bit about something which I've been kind of thinking of, and I keep on saying I've been dwelling on this, and I really do. It's quite a conscious thought in my head the whole time whilst I'm doing this series, is how to get people into it and how to keep them into it. I very much understand that people's attention spans are quite small and quite limited, so you have to be doing something quite interesting for people to carry on watching at the end of the day. You can't just do a one-off thing and expect everyone to love it forever sort of thing. You have to carry on. And I was wondering about getting people into Horus Heresy. The amount of people that have thanked me because they've said, I've only just got into Horus Heresy, it's really great seeing these videos and stuff like that, and I usually ask a question. Now, I don't know if those people are still doing Horus Heresy 30k. Betrayal of Calth has kind of had its fame, it's going off doing whatever it does. It's still an amazing box set. I'm hoping to get a couple more at some point. But here's hoping that they do some other ones. But ultimately, how do you get someone into it? How people might see it for the amount of models, and they've always kind of thought about 30k. Now Betrayal of Calth is here, they're like, oh cool, I can actually get into this. But maybe they don't know where to start, which was kind of the idea of the entire series, to do that. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm going to lean towards a certain thing and say shiny syndrome, because you're going to play it because you like shiny stuff. Like, example, these two dudes here. Leviathan Dreadnoughts. From Forge World, awesome kits. Just awesome. Really can't say much more else than that. They are incredible kits. A lot of fun to put together. They look awesome when they're painted. They are just big, giant walking tanks, which is awesome. You've got a character series for all you professional painters here. I know his sword is bent. Don't worry, I will heat it up and bend it back. It's just one of the things I know. Don't blame Forge World for that. It happens with pretty much every single resin. So yeah, the character series, this is great for your professional painters and everything. Really want a challenge on going really to town on something. So yeah, there's another way of appealing to it as well. But ultimately, what you'll find if you're new into 30k, and I mentioned this at the beginning, what you'll find, the people that have been into it for ages, what's keeping them in it is the fluff behind it. The models are nice, don't get me wrong, and most of our money and savings and wages and everything go on that. And at that point it also becomes a bit of the hobbyist addiction of I want a better army than everyone else sort of thing. Or I want a better looking army, etc, etc sort of thing. But what you'll find as a general rule for all the people that have been behind it for a while is they've read the fluff, and the fluff is what keeps them in it. Because the storylines that people have read are they're so committed into it now that you can't drop it easily. It'd be very hard to. I mean, I've got one of my best friends was reading it and he was really into it, but he stopped around about book 4 or 5, possibly a little bit more, maybe 6, 7, but he hasn't read any further from that. And I've accelerated past him. I know loads of stuff, and he feels a little bit dwarfed by me, which is a bit ironic because I'm a midget. But yeah, he doesn't know half the story now. He doesn't know what's going on. And you will meet that. If you're new into 30k, you will meet that person that knows it all. Now, what you will definitely meet... no, sorry, not indefinitely. You will definitely meet the person that has read all the books and thinks they know it all. You can't remember that many stories word for word. It's impossible. And... I mentioned this on a previous video recently that I was controlling my own nerd rage when other people were talking about stories and what was going on and what they thought was happening in the heresy or what happened and stuff like that. And I sat there going, no, it didn't, no, in my own head. And I realised I was being a douche. So I had to sit back for a second and go, okay, well, that's the way he read it at the end of the day. That's the way they did it. It's not what I believed happened, but hey ho. However, there will be hundreds of other people out there that went on a keyboard warrior mission to, no, you've got it wrong, South Park reference there. But don't do that. Just don't do it. It's not worth the time. It's not worth the hassle, to be honest with you. There's other things you can be doing. People read it their way, they do it their way. What I find interesting is people that do it to get views and subscribers and stuff like that on YouTube, because it's a popular trending thing at the moment. So people like to voice their opinion and copy other people's ideas and stuff like that because they want a piece of the action. Now, that's everyone's own prerogative at the end of the day. Everyone's copying from anyone else. It's really hard to come up with an original idea. That's pretty much it. You can't really do it. You've got your own stuff. That's just what happens. But if you are one of those people that you think you know what's happened, and you meet someone that is new into it, be nice to them. One thing I find really frustrating is drowning the person in information. Let them figure it out. It's a story at the end of the day. Let them read the story. Let them understand it. If they want to know more, tell them. Say, okay, well, yeah, I can tell you, but you're going to ruin the story for yourself. If they want to know desperately, then tell them. No worries. But tell them only what they ask for, okay? Don't tell them more. I've seen it one too many times. Someone get into Horus Heresy and they ask a piece of advice, go, okay, what would work well for white scars? And the amount of comments, and what happens is one person responds with something, another person responds with something else, and then another person chimes in, and then they basically start having a conversation between themselves, and the person who originally asked the question is sitting there going, what the hell is going on? Like, I haven't started. I just want someone to tell me what would work well and stuff like that. And I appreciate everyone wants to give their own opinion on it as well. But if you're going to give your own opinion on it, don't start a conversation up with someone else. Just don't. I've had it done to me when you're talking about something, and you ask someone a question, and then they answer it, and someone else goes, no, it's not. And then they start arguing with that person. They start arguing with each other. And then they have a conversation. Then they have a laugh. And then they move on to something else and stuff like that. The person that asked the question is just left in the dust. There's nothing you can do about it. And, like, you can't catch up. And that is actually a very big deterrent. That doesn't apply to Horus Heresy. That applies to everything. Like, you need... Let me clarify this, because I'm stumbling on my words a bit here and I'm not articulating myself very well. I've been through training on how to train people. I went through what we call trainer. So I understand the methodology of what I need to do to try and get the best results for people to learn. And one of the things is you don't make the person feel small, and that is the biggest thing which Horus Heresy really fails at, is you make the other person feel small. Also, keeping it relevant, and also not drowning the person in information. The brain can only take in so much, okay? Don't push it. Don't try and ram it down people's throats. Don't do inside jokes with people. That's really annoying. That's annoying on a personal level from loads of other things. So don't do it, okay? Ask them, and then let them give them your opinion in a short little burst, and then ask them what else they want to know. Ask them, keep them engaged, keep them part of the conversation, keep them part of the system, the game, and everything like that. Keep them involved. Don't do the simple thing of talking to everyone else about Horus Heresy stuff and the person get left behind. Just don't do it. It's really not worth it. If you want new people in the game, let the new people control it. Let them control the speed at which they want to learn. If you want to have those conversations, I would suggest opening up a separate group, Facebook group, conversation chat window or whatever, that if they want to jump into, they can jump into. It's not for you to decide at what speed they learn at and what they go on at. Now, I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent. I wanted to explain a little bit why I went off on that tangent. Basically, the reason why all the 30k veterans that are doing it today, including myself, is basically we've read the books. And the story is so far along now that we just can't get enough of it. We just want to see what happens next and see what's going on. So for all the people that left behind that are jumping into it now, it's a big apology from myself on behalf of the entire 30k industry. I keep on knocking this arm off. For one, either leaving you in the dust, okay, and carrying on without explaining it. Two, making you feel like you're not involved and you're not important because you weren't there at the start. It's not your fault that you weren't there at the start or doing this stuff. It's not your fault. That isn't. You can say that about everything. I even spoke to my friend about it the other day because we were talking to a member of staff in GW at Warhammer World, surprisingly enough, and we were talking about Warhammer Quest. And just to throw a whole circle back to very old times, Warhammer Quest was a very old game from GW, back before Warhammer Fantasy, or possibly, no, Warhammer Fantasy I think was probably out, and Warhammer 40k were really taking off. It was when back in their dungeon crawlers. That whole dungeon crawler thing came from Warhammer Quest and Hero Quest, and he didn't know anything about it at the end of the day. Now, we tried to explain it to him, but I tried to basically cut the conversation off quite shortly and quite quickly because he wasn't asking questions about it at the end of the day. He just went, oh, that's cool, and then left it. So I kind of ended the conversation on Warhammer Quest at that point. I just went, okay, well, moved it on to another topic. Reason being, if he was interested in it, he would ask more questions about it. If he's not interested in it, he's not going to ask more questions about it. It's as simple as that. Okay? You can drop little hints here and there, and maybe I'll draw them in slowly, okay? Just slowly, let people figure out their own time. It's what they're allowed to do. It's their hobby, it's their own right. If you accelerate ahead of them and drown them in information, you're just going to put them off. And you're potentially getting rid of a gaming friend that's probably one of the most fun people to play against. You don't know because you haven't played the game against them. So this is a word of advice, please, for all the people out there. Just tone it back a bit. Tone it back a bit. Let everyone figure out on their own accord. Secondly, this is a message to them, all the new people in there as well. If you are unsure, don't feel afraid to ask stupid questions. Okay? If someone gives you a stupid answer, this goes out to the veterans as well, just say, I'm sorry, that didn't help me, and try and maybe rephrase the question to them. If they're being douchebags, leave the group, okay? Don't bother with it. Find someone else. You can even comment down below. I really don't mind answering questions. If you want to talk to me, that's fine. There's Elster Nations Minis as well on Facebook, so if you do have questions, stick a question on it. Send me a message. I don't mind. I'll talk to you as best I can. However, you're probably going to have people more in a closer vicinity of yourself to ask and stuff. It's very hard to get your point across over typing. And I wish I could do a video for every single question that I get asked in the comments, but I just don't have the time in the world. So, yeah. So, yeah, this is kind of a message to you, to all of you, is get involved. If you want to know more about it, get involved and ask people. If people are being douchebags, move somewhere else. Ask other things. There are groups. Pre-Heresy Painters is one of the best groups I know of. It's very, very calm, very chilled out. Everyone's really super cool in there. There are some of the bigger groups like Crusade and Heresy, where you've got a lot more veterans in there, so you might get some odd responses from people, and people say, no, it was this way, and stuff like that. Basically, the larger the area you go, the more chance you're going to run into someone a bit weird. Now, I say that there are some very cool people in Crusader and Heresy, but I've seen a lot of arguments on there as well. People going off on fluff rules for some reason or another. I couldn't tell you why, but anyway. So understand that the bigger the place you go, and the more questions you ask, the more chance you're going to get a knob, basically, a dickhead, responding to you. So I would also advise this, if you can, read the books, because the books are what's driving the background behind all of this. The guys that are doing all the stuff, they wouldn't be into this if it wasn't for the books, at the end of the day. You may be one of those completely shiny people that just loves Forge World stuff and shiny stuff. That's fine, you're allowed to do that. But if you want to know more, the books will tell you what kind of themes and how the legions act and how they do. Take them all with a pinch of salt. It's a very contradictory video, this one as well. So I'm trying to say is, at the end of the day, it's a game, but there's stories behind it which make the game more enjoyable, so you can understand how your legion plays. Sometimes the rules don't always match up with how you picture the legion. Hey, that's the fun of this whole industry, the fact that you can interpret it your way. Other people don't. But the good thing about this Horus Heresy stuff is there's a lot of variation in it. Because they don't have loads of Xenos races, they basically have to customize the legions and for you to tailor the legion into how you want to play it, sort of thing. So unlike 40k, where you've got a codex and you can try and create a cool list out of the codex, the legion gives you different kind of rites of war, which will allow you to take different units as compulsory or cheaper. So your legion will always predominantly be Space Marines or Mechanicum or Solar Auxilia, but you, depending on how you take them, is, well, I suppose that could be said true for 40k, but you know you're always going against another Space Marines or Mechanicum. If you're going against Mechanicum, just take as many guns and as killy stuff as you can, because they're horrible to deal with. Just don't die. But you can always find stuff like independent characters and stuff like Garrow. You can throw them into a Loyalist Legion. Find stuff like that. Find your gaps. Find your holes in it. Find your little niche and your little area of 30k which you want. And at the end of the day, if you're not a gamer and you just want to do fluff stuff, that's cool. If you just want to paint, that's cool too. I'm really down with that. I'm much more of a painter than I am a gamer. I tend to get too wrapped up in the game, and my brain has like bleh moments halfway through, and then I start getting confused, and then I start getting tired because it's gone on for so long, and I'm just like, oh god. So bear that in mind. Are you a gamer? Are you a painter? What do you want to achieve? What do you want to do? So yeah, I wanted to put it out there because I felt like I was losing touch with the beginning 30k players. I felt like I was aiming this more towards the veterans and getting them interested. The veterans, you know what you're doing anyway. You've got the books. If you don't have the books, let me know which book you want me to cover and we'll cover that. But this entire series is aimed at the beginner. At the end of the day, it's not aimed at the veteran. If the veterans like it, then cool. I'm completely down with that. But this is a beginner series, so apologies if I've left some of you behind. This is a formal apology from myself to yourselves. I will try to keep it more on track for beginners and how we're going to work it. If you do have suggestions like Tactica videos, that's cool. I'm working on one for the Ultramarines. The new book's on its way. I've put my order in. It hasn't been dispatched yet though, so God knows when I'm going to get that. But once I've got that, we'll start looking at some Tactica of what to do. If you want to know any fluff behind any specific legions, say if you're interested or you started collecting a particular legion, you want to know about them. Maybe you haven't read the Horus Heresy books yet, but you want to know about this particular legion, what it does. Let me know and we'll do some fluff videos on it and explain a little bit about them. I go on basically what the internet tells me, what the books tell me, and what I've read in the Black Library books. So it's my opinion, my view, my amalgamation of all the collected events together. So yes, so it's a bit of a rant, but I'm hopefully being a bit informative as well. So for all the veterans out there, remember, don't leave people behind. And for all the newbies out there, if you're not sure, ask a question at the end of the day. We're all humans. If you need help, ask for help. I know it's a big failing of a lot of people to not ask for help. I don't honestly see why. ask for help. Someone will help you. If not, I'll help you. So, yeah. So if you do have any questions, stick them in the comments below. And I'm going to hopefully pray that my book's going to show up soon so we can start looking at the Ultramarine tactics and what I'm going to do to try and kick someone's butt. So, thanks very much for watching, guys. Take it steady, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.